Story 1. I don't think it's by any means a specific issue for the year 2024, but the rate of kids who are getting passed to the next grade in school without basic reading and writing skills scares me a lot. The internet makes it easy to be confidently wrong, and a lack of literacy skills will make it even easier to use video and audio to manipulate undereducated individuals into believing outright lies. It's really scary. Story 2. Can we please put some kind of law or grassroots movement in place to stop all these subscriptions, loot boxes, and season pass things? We don't own anything we bought anymore, and that, combined with the rampant straight-up gambling everywhere, is exhausting. Story 3. The fact that we are putting artificial intelligence in everything now. I am just waiting for my toaster to start asking me how I like my emotional stability along with my toast. Story 4. Controversial take. Everyone trying to hop on the predator-busting trend. These individuals often handle things in a way that means that actual child predators get off with a little pranking or beating at most, and then get to go on and live their happy predator life. Story 5. The increasing spread of misinformation online is alarming. It is astonishing how quickly false information can go viral, affecting real-world decisions and fueling unnecessary panic or division. Story 6. People are losing jobs due to CEOs coming up with plans that, in the long term, will destroy the company. Hello, Starbucks. I will forever boycott you as you charge for straws while your CEO uses a plane to get himself to California, and I have to pay to save the planet. Story 7. As seen in this thread, the overwhelming pessimism and cynicism in people is troubling. It's concerning to think of children growing up in a world where adults have lost all hope. Story 8. Artificial intelligence really scares me. I would be a lot more okay with it if it was developed with even a smidgen of ethics. However, the fact that their method was, we don't care whom we wrong or steal from to get this technology developed, is a really worrying tone to set with this kind of technology. Story 9. Increasing emotional disconnect due to digital distractions. With constant notifications, social media, and the rise of virtual interactions, it is difficult to maintain meaningful face-to-face communication. This has led to a breakdown in emotional intimacy, causing partners to feel more distant even while physically together. The reliance on digital platforms for connection, while convenient, has also fostered a sense of isolation and weakened the depth of real-world relationships. Story 10. We can't agree on basic facts. This situation has been worsened by artificial intelligence, accusations of Russian interference and propaganda, and Iranian propaganda. Essentially, the fringes of both sides are likely being manipulated into antisocial behavior. And it's hard to say what the antidote would be, even if it were true. Censoring is strictly considered an un-American solution. The trend in technology is for information to become briefer, when the only way I know to combat disinformation is through longer-form discourse. This isn't the end of the world stuff, but our peace is being disturbed, and we are busy fighting each other instead of joining up to figure out who is causing trouble. Story 11. Accelerating cultural tension gets worse and worse inside the United States and abroad. We are a world of humans who just cannot seem to love and accept our neighbors. So many of us cannot empathize with the challenges other people face. Instead, we malign the other because of fear of how their presence will affect our lives. Story 12. I think it has happened for a few years now, but all the impulsive seasonal shopping, everyone goes and buys everything as soon as it hits the shelves. Resellers buy things out to sell them for way more. People just follow the trends. It makes me not even see the fun in seasonal decor anymore. Story 13. It has been going on for a long time, but the general denial of reality coming from certain people, one person in particular, is pretty messed up. It is right out of Big Brother's playbook. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears, and if we aren't careful, studious, and active, then democracy as we know it could end because of it. Story 14. It is hard to choose, but I would go with giving very young children a phone or iPad. The worst part is that we haven't fully experienced the full effects of this. Story 15. The previous generation's desperate attempts to maintain their status quo, hold on to power, and continue to line their own pockets raise significant concerns. Consider this for a moment. How many people age 35 and under disagree with remote work? How many disagree with the legalization of a lot of things? How many are actually religious? How many are racist? Now, look at the number of people over 65 in power, those that control wealth. Look at Nancy Pelosi, who is 86, engages in insider trading, and stays in Congress for what? To pass legislation that won't matter until she is dead? We almost had Joe Biden try to run again at age 81. Donald Trump is running and he's almost 80. They ignore the future, they increase wealth inequality, they watch birth rates decline and mental health issues rise, and they stay in power to help themselves. Oh, and they ruined the environment. The worst generation in the history of humanity, if you ask me. The only generation leaving the next one worse off. Story 16. The rise in misinformation on social media is pretty troubling. It's hard to know what's real anymore, and people are so quick to believe things without fact-checking. Story 17. The combination of two things: people passing off the output of artificial intelligence tools as their own original work, and people reacting to that by increasingly assuming that any content they do not like or agree with must have been AI-generated, even when there is no convincing evidence. This double whammy is troubling to me because I think it has the potential to effectively destroy public discourse, which was already in shaky condition to start with. Useful discourse requires good faith on all sides, and also that all sides believe the others are speaking in good faith. I am not immune to this either, despite being bothered by it and thinking it is a bad thing. As I browse Reddit, I now regularly find myself thinking, this looks like ChatGPT writing. And I am sure that is sometimes true. But sometimes when I am bored, I go look at the person's comment history and discover that they have had the same writing style since long before ChatGPT existed. Meaning I have just worked myself up with suspicion and spent time trying to verify it for no reason. Story 18. Algorithms being so easily exploitable is pretty troubling. It is concerning how easy it is for children to be targeted by extremist content, just a few clicks away from basic children's content online. Story 19. I feel like the majority of the population has become completely self-centered. It started with COVID lockdowns. People had no interaction with anyone outside of their bubble for so long that they seemed to forget that even then we were still reliant on each other for survival. It's easy to forget the mailman, nurse, delivery driver, pharmacist, and other essential workers provided goods and services necessary to survive when you don't see them. This led many people to be so focused on their own comfort and desires that once everything started to open up, they forgot that they were joining in the world's bubble. Many people seem to think that the world joined their bubble. This has led to the widespread increase of what I call the one musketeer motto. It's no longer all for one and one for all. Now it's all for me and me for me. People expect the world to cater to and make accommodations for them and their needs while failing to realize that they're stomping all over the needs and necessities of the world at large. A good example of this are some parents who bring their loud, unruly children to restaurants. They don't just assume. They expect that everyone else in the establishment will be fine listening to YouTube at full blast while their kid impersonates a storm siren. There's no question that servers have to be good with cleaning their mess and tripping over their 60 miles per hour kid-shaped projectile. They or their children are on the spectrum, have mental health diagnoses, sensory issues, or just felt like going out to dinner. This means they have the right to behave in whatever way suits them. They have absolutely no regard for other patrons or employees. They wanted dinner. The iPad at max volume is the only way to keep their kid from going ballistic. Therefore, screw the lady at the other table with sensitivity to screeching, or the child at the next table who's on the spectrum and trying to focus. Screw the server who asks them to keep little Timmy from climbing up the stones surrounding the fireplace. It seems like the majority of the population walks around with the expectation that the world is supposed to cater to them at every point. They should get to skip in line at the grocery store. It's okay for their child to destroy the toy aisle at Target. Their child should be able to tell their teachers to go to hell with no repercussions. Everyone else needs to compromise to make sure they don't feel uncomfortable in any way. It's not their job to fit into the world. It's the world's job to conform to their needs. The worst part is this attitude seems contagious. It's spreading at an alarming rate. This is not to say that people aren't allowed to look out for themselves, or that their needs shouldn't be accommodated for. They should. Their needs are important and should be taken into account, just the same way everyone else's are. It's kind of like the old saying, your right to swing your fist however you want stops when your swing is going to connect with my nose. People have every right to be consumed by selfishness, but should remember that their right stops when their selfishness is imposing on the rights of others. Story 20. I think the Haitian immigrants eating pets hoax is showing us just how easily certain people can be provoked into violence for absolutely no good reason. This is something that can be debunked so easily, it's almost not worth trying, but the people who need to hear it aren't going to listen. They don't even care if it's true. They want it to be true because it gives them an excuse to crack down on immigration, so they keep repeating it as if it is. Story 21. There has been a significant and rapid increase in censorship and moderation with no one to oversee the moderators themselves. Censorship is becoming increasingly enforced to be family-friendly, even in spaces meant for adults. These moderators are overzealous and seem to be appointed by someone with too much time on their hands, eager to be first in line as if waiting outside on the sidewalk for the release of a new gaming console at a retail store. The most concerning trend is that too many individuals are finding themselves in positions of authority for which they are ill-suited, leading to a decline in values such as expertise, professionalism, intelligence, and community spirit. When hard work is undervalued, it results in a lack of motivation to accomplish anything, creating a society that lacks substance. Story 22. Not just artificial intelligence. The collective insistence that we must give in to artificial intelligence and any new technology regardless of the ramifications suggests that we have no choice in the matter. I have seen theorists talk about this. Story 23. Companies are implementing an increasing number of anti-consumer practices in their products. It began with planned obsolescence, which is understandable to a certain extent. However, we have reached a point where expensive electronics are considered disposable rather than items to be repaired and used over the long term. This is expensive, environmentally disastrous, and not sustainable at all. But I suppose the numbers must go up. Story 24. I feel like 2024 has solidified the gradual slide into mediocrity. People who cannot read, do basic math, or even have a semi-nuanced argument. I am back in college after a layoff, and from when I first attended school in 2009 to today, it is a whole different ball game. I could not imagine back when I was first in school playing games during class, or actively checking out during lectures to stare at my laptop, but that is 80% of every lecture class. I thought people were exaggerating about education, but it turns out I was the one who had too much confidence. Story 25. Ads are everywhere, designed to be shoved into your eyes constantly, no matter where you go. I went online to fill out paperwork for my doctor appointment and I couldn't finish it without watching 3 long drug advertisements. If you work in advertising, I hope you endure difficulty every day of your life. Story 26. The rise of Christian nationalism. I do not want to live in a country in which my privacy and freedoms are regulated by zealous religious authoritarians. That is Iran. Story 27. Artificial intelligence is being used to influence social media. Also, Reddit is becoming more and more infested with AI bots, arguing their position to death. Everything is turning into an information war. Governments can get away with everything, even genocide, if there are enough bots out there convincing you that that's okay. This trend will completely distort reality. Story 28. Harassing people online without consequences is a significant issue. Currently, it's legal to comment on someone's recently deceased family member, call the deceased relative a pedophile and say they deserved whatever happened, without knowing any facts, and get away with it. The internet is a place where society is evolving together, but the laws are not up to speed. Story 29. Penny crunching. What happened to going into a business and seeing real savings or cool deals? Now, everyone is trying to compete with their general region for the highest price within legality. Story 30. AI in schools. It is totally different to use AI as a study tool to gather information then sift through it to find relevant info from direct sources supplied by the program, but it is completely unacceptable to use it to do the work you needed to understand how to do yourself. I had a coworker who did an online master's and used an AI voice replicator to copy his voice for a public speech presentation project. He got an A because the teacher could not tell the difference and he was gloating about it. I am like, dude, those classes are meant to teach you how to publicly speak and put your formulated thoughts into coherent speech. A pretty important skill in higher education. Nope, he just wanted an A with minimal effort. Story 31. Politicians are out of control and everyone has their popcorn out, watching them burn any semblance of credibility to the ground while bickering about dogs and abortions. I don't think everyone understands how troubled we are. Absolutely powerless because our representative democracy isn't actually representative. It's bought and paid for by special interest groups on both sides. It reminds me of that old South Park episode. Would you rather vote for the giant douche or the turd sandwich?